Hello, friends and beautiful people. It is Kathryn and 5D visionary and elevated consciousness coach. Hello, and welcome to All Things Ascension, episode 22. Today, we're talking about something that I think is very interesting and something I talk about a lot in the courses that I teach. And it has to do with some of the private mentoring I do with some of my clients as well. But it is really about, today's topic is about ideas and concepts. Where do they come from? How do they originate? How are they filtered to us? And what is the difference between ideas and impulses that can turn into something that births an evolution in the creation template and drives humanity forward here in 3D? What is the difference between that and something that has more of a low astral hue to it? Something that comes out of astral pollution of 4D and actually does contribute to kind of the collective insanity, where suppressed urges and impulses tend to burst out in a powder keg situation. And we've seen some of this happen many times here on planet Earth, and very recently with I had a whole video about the insurrection in Washington on January 6th of 2021 of this year, around the very palpable electric election here in the United States for our president. And I have, if you want to know that video, I actually might tag it here if you want to read more or learn more about that. I have a video about that. But I want to talk about today, and hello whoever is here. I can't see everybody who's here right now, but let's see if I can go into the group and see who's watching. But say hey, say hello. Let me know you're here. Aha, there I am. So there isn't, in my opinion, enough information out there about what 4D really is. Like we have ideas about it being, sure, the astral plane, and kind of the false heaven is another way to interpret it. It is a very complex and convoluted dimensional realm. It's actually a canopy of light that surrounds 3D. If you were to think of 3D as a bubble or a sphere of energy, 4D is like an energetic canopy of light surrounding that entire sphere of third dimensional matrix energy. So that anything that comes from the higher dimensions must filter through 4D in order to reach us. And what's really interesting about 4D is that it is the realm of the collective unconscious. Sure, it is the astral plane. It is also, that's what can allow it to be kind of this false heaven. It's a very fantastical realm. It has elementals, it has ascended masters. This is the realm where we connect with angels. This is the realm where we connect with departed ancestors. But this is also a realm of low astral impulses and very high divine inspiration. It is a very convoluted realm of duality. So you literally have this spectrum of information informed by emotions. And in 3D, we are very emotional beings. And the reason we are very emotional beings, and we really create our lives around our emotional template, it's directly due to what we are influenced by in 4D. 4D is a place where there is very, very low astral energy and a lot of dark force influences, but there's also extremely elevated high frequencies of light. And 4D is like a lens that splits the light that comes through the canopy of 4D, which is like a membrane, and filters everything that comes in from the higher dimensions of 5D and beyond. And in this realm, there's a lot of influence. Not all of the influence is very good, but there is an extreme amount of very divine, beautiful, loving influences that have a lot of beauty attached to it, high levels of love, beauty that filter down into the creation that we've seen here take place in beautiful, ecstatic, sacred cultures. art, all forms of it, sculpture, painting, drawing, music, literature. This has its influences directly through 4D. And based on our emotional mirror, we're going to attract or pull out of 4D exactly what matches our vibration, depending on the emotional template that we are embodying day to day. And we tend to be creatures of habit here in 3D. We tend to create our lives, our personal reality, our entire personal identity around what we are feeling. And this is usually based off of a memory of some person we've been or had to be in our past. And depending on our emotional resonance with that memory of self, we've created or continue to create a personal identity around it. In other words, we keep bringing our past into our present by emotionally resonating at the same degree that we did whenever A, B, or C happened to us, right? And this can be good or bad. You know, some of us are living very ecstatic, wonderful, abundant lives based on memories that we have that we are abundant, that we are prosperous, that we are, living out our divine birthright as divine humans having a wonderful experience, being spirit in a body. Sure, there are those of us here on this planet having that experience. But that's the exception, unfortunately, and not the norm. And a lot of what we are striving for and what let's just say we're asking to become, we're asking to evolve into, is something greater than who we have been. That is the energetic resonance of most of the people on the planet. Hi, Andra. I can't see who else is here, but say hello if you're here. We are the keepers of 3D. It's so important to remember that no matter what astral influences may come to us through the 4D energetic realm and dimensional reality, whether they are very low astral forces or very high divine forces that filter directly through 5D and don't get lost in the dark minutiae of 4D, no matter what, there are forces that can scheme and do whatever they want in 4D to manipulate the collective unconscious of humanity here, which keeps us in warrior mode instead of artist mode. But ultimately, we are the keepers of 3D. Humans are. We ultimately say what stays and what goes. And we're slowly beginning to remember this. Slowly, but it's happening. More and more people on the planet, as they're going through this awakening process of elevating their consciousness, evolving back into their original template of divine human, we're starting to remember that we are the creators and the keepers of 3D. There may be all kinds of different influences, welcome or unwelcome, but we ultimately decide through the energetic resonance we want to vibrate at individually and collectively. Through that, we decide what stays and what goes here. So that's why I think it's such a deficit in the understanding of, you want to call it the spiritual community, of not talking about 4D, because there's so much influence coming through the 4D energetic realm right now. And we get to decide, even though it's an influence and a strong, very powerful and intense influence to keep us in darkness. That darkness can do whatever it wants. It can play and scheme all it wants in 4D, but ultimately, when it filters down into 3D, we as the keepers of 3D get to decide if we want to resonate at that level or not anymore. And as more and more of the planet is awakening, we are making the decision that, hey, I don't have to resonate at that level of lack and fear and want anymore. And what's profoundly influencing us right now in the 4D realm is this dualized way of being, where we're being asked on an everyday level at this point, do we want to create our ideal reality, our idealized way of being around conjuring ideas that come directly from 4D and acting on those things that bring beauty and bring a resonance of higher spiritual truth and bring a resonance of unity consciousness, unifying, more egalitarian way of being? Do we want to conjure those kind of ideas out of 4D and make them physical in the 3D realm, which is our power and ability to do? Or do we want to keep playing the same game and acting out on archetypes, ways of being that actually run humanity down, dumb us down, narcotize and hypnotize us into that same old lack, fear, and want, structuring of reality? We get to choose that. And we forget, we have forgotten how much power we hold here. Ultimately, again, we are the creators and the keepers of this reality realm. And so if we use this dimension of 4D as a means to tap into the collective field of mind, which is what 4D is all about. It's about the collective unconscious, the collective energetic soup of the human mind. There's a lot going on in there. It's a very convoluted and complex place, all based on emotional resonance. But if we can use this dimension, if we remember our power and tap into the collective field of mind through 4D and download divinely inspired ideas that evolve our planet forward, we have the ability to deflect a lot of dark polarities in this realm that have been influencing 3D for a very, very, very long time. And we also have the ability within that to drive our lives forward individually in the highest and best way possible. And so when we tap into 4D with an emotional resonance of, I'm in my power, I am acting from my God self and making choices and decisions in my life based on my God self level of being, meaning your highest higher self. When you're tapping into that level of being and choosing and deciding from this very convoluted realm of being what kind of ideas you want to conjure and download and pull down from that dimensional reality. If you're doing it from your God self level, you are doing something that is aligning with what I call the God choice, meaning you're deciding to take action on what is highest and best for me, what is highest and best for all. Those things are not mutually exclusive. We've just been swindled into the believing that they are. And also with the least amount of resistance for all involved. That last part is the real secret sauce there. The least amount of resistance for all involved. We've been anesthetized against our own highest thinking that we can create a life that is beautiful and we can do it easily. That we can do it without having to suffer in order to get there, to compromise or sacrifice something in order to get there. We've been hoodwinked into this idea that anything worth having is worth working really, really hard for. And we have to suffer for it and sweat, and we have to, go through sweat, blood, and tears to get there. That is the false archetypes, the false structures, and the dark polarities of 4D influencing you and who you think you are, who you think you have to be, who you think you must be, or what you have to go through in order to have something that's great or grandiose or better than what was before. These are lies that have come through the dark polarities of 4D, which have, again, a very strong influence on 3D. But that doesn't mean we have to give in to them. And especially now that we're remembering our divine human status, and that we're remembering that, a lot of us are remembering that we came into this lifetime now to fully remember and embody our master timeline, where we are masters of our emotions, masters of our ability to create our own reality on our terms and without the need to suffer or struggle through it, that we can do it with ease, and that what is good for me can be shared with all, and that I'm not in competition or in comparison with anyone else. If I can have this, and I can do this, and I can be this, and I can move towards this place of wholesomeness within me, then me doing that, showcasing that, I become a beacon for everyone else who's part of this collective field of mind, which is our 3D human family. We can download to each other that, hey, if I can do this, so can you. I'm no more powerful than you, yet I've created things in my life that I am so pleased with, and I love it, and I've decided from a place of emotional mastery, that it can be easy, and that it can be fun. And from this state, when I'm in this resonance of my power, of my sovereignty, it ignites this inner pilot light that's always burning within you of creativity and imagination. It ignites it like a bonfire. When you're in your power, when you're in your sovereignty, when you decide from a place of your highest God self aspect of being, I can tap into this energetic soup of duality and pull out what I need, what suits me, what aligns with my resonance. And from this place, we can download all kinds of incredibly creative and imaginative and wonderful ideas and concepts. We can put things together from this energetic resonance, having these energetics in place first within us. We can pull things into this resonant field and adopt, download, embody imaginative, creative ideas that we couldn't see before. And simply because we were operating from a different energetic resonance of fear, lack, and want, which the dark polarities of 4D would like us to do nothing more than that. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Jante. Than to keep believing that this astral pollution that does inform the collective mind of humanity is our only resource, is our only way of being. We've just been, again, swindled and hoodwinked into believing that we have to create from this limited template, limited energy grid of lack, fear, and want. And we do create from that. We have created from that. But that's what makes a lot of the physical material representations that come from that grid be so limited, be so illusory, and to be finite. Again, when we are tapping into 4D from our God self aspect, the highest aspect of our higher selves, and we say, okay, I'm ready for divine inspiration now that benefits me, benefits the highest good of all, and is involved in the least amount of resistance for all. When we come at 4D with that energy, what we do is we tap ourselves into this amazing realm of juicy impulses. And acting them out seems like the scariest thing for us. When we are in that moment where we have a divinely inspired idea and it feels so grandiose, what is the thinking we adopt almost directly on the heels of that? It's too big for me. I can't do that. Who do I think I am? The second you are in that zone of pulling in and downloading something incredibly creative, a juicy impulse, a delicious concept that feels so big and so expansive, we are so habituated to this energy grid of lack, fear, and want that bigness is something we want to shut down right away. And there is nothing more sad than that to me. And I see this happen all the time. I see this happen with people that I work with. I offer a one-on-one session with clients where it's just idea and concept alchemy. It's just idea and concept creation, because that's my zone of genius. If you followed me for a while, you know that I have probably close to 100 different courses now. Some, mini one-off courses, some more involved, and more of my signature courses like Timelines Expanded, in Alignment, which is coming up soon. But I have workshops, I have, mini masterclasses, I have all kinds of stuff. Where do these ideas come from? They don't come from me. They come through me. Because I'm making myself a divine vessel in line of communication with the higher divine forces inherent in 4D. Instead of aligning with the lower astral impulses and very low astral hues and vibes of the dark polarities in 4D, where I want to immediately shut those ideas down because they feel too big for me, too grand for me. Who am I to do this? And it's just the patterning of that lack grid talking when that feeling comes in of, I have to shut this down. Or maybe we say, oh, well, I'll just shelve that for another time when I'm feeling ready. There's no such thing as ready. Ready is just an inner resonance that no matter what comes at me, I got this because it's time. Ready is such an illusory state, such an illusory and kind of false paradigm that we've set up for ourselves. I'll do it when I'm ready. What does that mean, really? When you say that to yourself, I'll implement this idea or this concept into a course or a book or a piece of music or a piece of art when I'm ready. What that really translates into, when the resonance of being in my highest aspect of self feels open to endless, limitless, boundless amounts of creativity, where I feel like I could sustain this energy long enough to create and complete this project. Even getting ideas down on paper, like when we tap into 4D and we come up with a really amazing message that feels powerfully creative. And maybe we'll jot down a few ideas around it. But the second we sometimes see it in front of us and it becomes real because we've brought it out of the mental matter of 4D, because 4D is mental matter, it is the realm of collective unconscious, is where ideas and concepts come from. When we translate it dimensionally from 4D to 2D by writing something down on paper, we see it written down in our own hand, and then it becomes real, right? Like how many times have we had ideas and we just let it kind of bounce around in the mental matter in our minds, which is also where it's kind of residing in 4D. We haven't fully pulled it down yet unless we have a dimensional shift, meaning we embody it in some way in 3D and act on it, or we even write it down and put it in 2D by just writing it down on paper with your favorite pen. Until that dimensional shift takes place, there is no way to fully actualize it here. And sometimes seeing it written down can be the biggest roadblock, because it becomes real when we write it down, like, ooh, well, maybe someone else will do that, or maybe some point, I'll have someone help me do this, or at some point when I'm ready, this will get more fleshed out and become like a course or a program or a book or a piece of art or a piece of music or a sculpture or, something that I'm knitting or crocheting or something that I'm going to make for my kids or whatever it is, whatever the creative impulse is. How many times have you been stopped in your tracks when you wrote something down and you instantly became frustrated with it or instantly became like completely perplexed or bewildered by it, like, how do I? And the reason why it's frustrating is because you cut off that flow. And you did it by dropping into your mind and separating out, going into that feeling of separation and illusion, where you are separate from source. That's where the fear comes from. That's where the stymieing of your best efforts comes from. That's where that mental roadblock comes from. You drop into your mind, you separate, and you start to go into worry, preoccupation, or whatever. That's the low astral vibe of 4D that you're also pulling down from there. What if you just decide when you have creative impulses from now on that, hey, you know what? I'm going to be in my God self perspective and put myself in this energetic bubble when I'm working on this impulse, this juicy impulse, this idea, this concept. And I'm going to stay in this lane. I'm not going to drop into the mental matter of 4D that gets me into that low astral vibe, which is dark polarities trying to influence you, and say, nope, stay right where you are. Stay right where you are. We don't want you to remember how powerful you are. Do you think the great creative innovators on this planet allowed themselves to, maybe they played with it and danced with the low astral vibes of 4D about what they couldn't do or shouldn't do because no one else was doing this, blah, 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 blah. But do you think they sat and marinated in that energy? What if all the great innovators sat in the low astral end of 4D when they brought in a creative impulse and said, yep, not going to do that? Where would we be? without the great artists of our time. The great Greek plays that, focus on the hero's journey, which is very much a parallel for understanding 4D, because we have to go through 4D in order to access fully and embody and bring 5D or unity consciousness into being, to actualize it. We have to go through 4D. And going through 4D is like the hero's journey. I have a post that I wrote about that. We go on this quest. And the foes that we are vanquishing are our own low vibrations, our own low emotions that tell us who we think we are, based on some event that happened in our past that we keep re-traumatizing ourselves by this low vibe event that happened in our past, by dragging it constantly into the present. But I'm this. I will only never be this. I'm only never that. I've never been able to go past beyond that. I'm always, I'm never. And the way we self-talk our way into convincing ourselves that we can't do the great things. What if the great, masters of sculpture and art and music, what if Mozart just decided, like, nah, these crazy impulses that I just download through 4D, I'm sure he didn't use that wording. Maybe he did, I don't know. I'd love to talk to Mozart about it at some point. Maybe I'll go visit him in the astral after this talk. Do you think that he decided that, no, this is crazy, and no one was making these incredibly involved symphonies and concertos, not like he was, not before he came along? It's like he tried to figure out how I could put so many notes into a small period of space and make it work, but he did. What if he sat in the low astral vibe of 4D and was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. No one else is doing that. Or Einstein, or Tesla. I happen to believe Tesla was very, very tuned in to the high astral vibrations of 4D. And the sad thing is, we'll never know the totality of his inventions, because when he died, a lot of his notes, many of his notes, most of his notes, were taken away by the CIA and the FBI. And we'll never know those amazing inventions. So we can hope that maybe there's some scientist out there, some philosopher out there, some physicist out there tapping into 4D and using this collective field of mind to divinely download things that benefit the growth and highest evolution of humanity. What if you're that person who is meant to divinely download through this collective energetic soup of 4D, something of such a high astral vibe, and you brought it in, but it was your own need to limit yourself by the influences of the low astral vibes of 4D, and what you've been habituated to in 3D that made you stop that right in its tracks? What a crime that would be. And so now is really the time to understand that we all have an inner alchemist. I think of myself as an alchemist. I very much am. Because a lot of what I do, a lot of the things that I've created, courses, I've written 3 books, it's all not coming from me. It is coming through me by making myself a divine vessel that resonates with the high astral vibrations of 4D, the highest polarity, emotionally, spiritually, of 4D. Aligning my energy with that, being in my God self perspective, putting myself in that bubble. So nope, not available for anything less than this vibration. Not only am I going to divinely download this thing, but I'm going to stay in this space. I'm going to stabilize this vibration so that everything that needs to come in to like flesh this out and make it whole has its day. It has its time to come in. That is me being an alchemist. That is you being an alchemist. Taking these impulses from the mental matter of 4D and actualizing it into something that is created in physical form here in 3D. That's alchemy. And you deciding as a keeper and being in your power, your sovereign agency of knowing that you are a keeper and a creator of the material reality, the material matrix of 3D, knowing that that is you. That is you. That's what you do. Being in that power and saying, I divinely download only that which aligns with my master creator status, because I'm in my master timeline now. So when I tap into 4D, I'm setting the intention and the declaration that I'm only tapping into that which is aligned with my master timeline here in 3D. Whew, powerful. You have that ability. That is you acting on your inner alchemist. You know, what's amazing about archetypes is that archetypes and myth is what fills out this realm of 4D. If we were to think of it as having, you know, some sort of theme, archetypes figure very strongly, and there are lower vibration archetypes and there are higher vibration archetypes. The alchemist is a very high vibration archetype if you are aligning with the highest vibrations of 4D and intending and declaring from your God sovereign self, and you as a divine agent of creating the highest material reality of 3D, saying, I only align with that which benefits myself and the growth of humanity going forward, the highest evolution for humanity. I align with and I download those ideas. And I vow to actualize them in some way, taking divine inspired action on them here in 3D, in the physical. Because 3D is a realm of action. 3D is a physical world. We don't have this physical world without action. Okay? We don't have this physical world without alchemy. And everything that informs 3D filters through this energetic canopy of 4D. And to really get to 5D, to really access 5D, unity consciousness, we have to move through 4D with a degree of success. We need to become emotional masters. We need to know our archetypes, good and bad, and which ones are poking through in our everyday reality and in the driver's seat of creating who we are, who we think we are. You can call forth any archetype, even if you don't resonate strongly with it. You still have this ability, because you are part of all that is consciousness, to tap into any archetype that you need in any given moment in time. If you need to, tap into your inner queen, your inner king, that feels a sense of royalty in the highest and most benevolent way possible, of course. But if you need to feel like you are of divine sovereign status, you can tap into your inner king or queen archetype. If you feel like there's nothing but lower vibration forces around you, you can call in your highest aspect of your alchemist and say, I conjure these lower vibration forces and transmute them, taking this energy, rolling it over into something that is of a higher vibration. Because energy is just energy. If you feel surrounded by fear, you can tap into your inner divine warrior of light archetype and say, I'm going to take this fear, which is just energy, powerful energy, but transmute that, roll it over into something that actually benefits me, drives me forward with a desire I have to be, do, or have something better than where I was before. You have this ability. There are so many of us out there who are spiritual mentors trying to drive this idea home for you all the time. And just as you've been habituated and patterned into lack, fear, and want thinking and believing, it is, I think, our highest goal, those of us who recognize as being guardians of the new earth and way showers and timeline workers like myself and 5D visionaries like myself, I feel it's our highest and most divine task to keep drilling this into you and habituating you or brainwashing you in the other direction, that you are powerful, that you are all powerful, that you create your reality. And you could decide right now to have it be with more ease and flow. You could decide right now that you don't have to keep downloading information about the collective insanity of the human mind and what we've done or are doing on this planet to devolve it. You can choose to keep tapping into that. Where does that get you, however? More of the same, more of where we've been. And everything about the collective energetic charge that we're feeling right now is the universe getting up in your face and saying, see, things are different. Things are different. When are you going to start believing it? When are you going to start acting on it? When you're going to start pulling down these divinely inspired ideas, or more of them, and instead of just shelving them for when you're ready, whatever that means, and start acting on them now. And it doesn't mean you have to take grandiose, massive quantum leaps forward. You could just take some small inspired action on some idea or concept, even if it feels like a grandiose idea or concept. What if you just took a small action on it? And what if you just decided to consistently take small actions on it and create some momentum behind it? And you started rolling into this gradually, this new frequency that kind of overtakes you, and you start realizing that, you know what, it feels really good to start taking these ideas from 4D and doing something divine with them. What if I could become an idea machine that allows myself to be inspired to take more action for the greatest good of all, and through that, my individual efforts being a beacon then for the collective, meaning other people can see you and can feel you and what you're doing and the energetic resonance that you are vibrating out, where people are saying, ooh, I want me some of that. And you can say, hey, I'm just tapped into something that is benefiting myself and the highest good of all, and it feels so easy, it feels so good, it feels so wonderful, it feels like I'm awake and alive and present in my life. And in the process of being in this vibration, you're attracting everything to you that aligns with that vibration, aligns with that frequency. That just means more divinely inspired ideas and concepts coming in. And the more you act on it, the more confidence and courage you get, right? The more you're living at the level of a higher spiritual truth, the more you feel sovereign, the more you feel like an agent working on your highest and best behalf and on the highest and best behalf of all. There is no better feeling. I guarantee there is no better feeling. And then the goodness just keeps coming. The abundance just keeps coming. The prosperity just keeps coming. The ideas keep coming. And if you're actively saying to yourself, I'm activating my highest vibration of alchemist to take whatever lower forces are out there, and there are plenty, and transmuting that into the highest and best energies possible, you realize that energy just becomes fuel for your desires, for your highest and best, most desired ways of being. That's operating at the highest level of your inner alchemist. And when you do it that way, you'd be surprised. Even those of you who felt like, I don't really feel like an idea machine. That's one of the things I have a hard time with. Well, here's the thing. When I do this one-on-one session, it's called Idea and Concept Alchemy with my clients. A lot of them come to me for very similar reasons. They want to, put forth a book, or they're working on a course or a program, and they have like just the bare scaffolding set up around it, just a scant outline. And then when we get together, what we do and what I do with this client is activate the highest vibrational resonance, the highest vibrational polarities of 4D, and we work with that energy of 4D. And we pull into the mental matter, we tap into the mental matter rather, and flesh out a whole bunch of ideas together. And it becomes this brainstorming session. And the client gets to walk away with realizing like, well, I came to this session because I didn't want to spend 5, 6, 10 hours or 3 days getting these ideas together. I wanted to hire someone who could help me do it. But then they come away from the session realizing that they're like Dorothy and Oz, that they had the power to go home all the time. They had the power to tap into their inner alchemist the whole time. You do too. But like everything else in this reality matrix, it is about your will, your intention, your belief in how powerful you are or how powerless you think you are, and the ability to, or the degree to which you think you have the ability to create your reality. You can do so much more than you think you can. It's just that the lower astral vibe, the lower astral hue of 4D has been infecting the collective hive mind of humanity to feel like the power is always outside of ourselves. The power is always in someone else's hands. I'm always the clay or the putty in someone more powerful than myself, right? None of which is true. None of it. So I'm going to leave you with that. And I invite you to think now with 4D and maybe coming away with this with a little better understanding of 4D. And I will link that video that I made about understanding 4D in here. But you have the ability to either take the energy of 4D in this mass spectrum of duality that it represents in terms of the emotional spectrum, very low to very high. You can either take this energy of 4D, which is just a canopy of light that filters and kind of distorts through a lens of 4D, the higher messages that come from 5D. You can either decide through this distortion and this duality split that you'll take 4D and use it to be an artist, or you'll take 4D to use it to be a warrior. In other words, being constantly embattled, embroiled in conflict, contrast. And that conflict and contrast is also ultimately where you are at odds with your creator, divine self. So which will it be? Artist or warrior? You get to decide. You get to decide. So I hope this has been really helpful for you. I hope this has been inspirational for you, especially those of you who feel like you shelved some ideas recently. Maybe it's time to pull those down off the shelf and sit with them. But go into this space from a place of power. Put yourself in that bubble where you are in your God self, your highest of your higher self perspective, in your power, being in the moment, being present, letting everything else go that was part of your past that you think makes up the reality of who you are now. Let all that go in this bubble. Let this be kind of this impermeable membrane that you create for yourself, like, I'm in my creator bubble, and I only align with the highest energetics of 4D for more divinely inspired and juicy impulses and ideas and concepts to allow myself be this vessel to birth it through into the 3D matrix for the highest good of myself, the highest and best good of all, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved. Try that on, see how that works. Love and peace.